After I finished rebuilding the cupboard in my office, I had one storage box left that wouldn't fit into the space. That box is my sticker collection. Among all the good stickers for defunct record shops and streetwear brands, and for food places in Austin, Texas, I've been collecting years of parcel return labels. My inability to throw them out stems from when I was a teenager, when we would use postal labels for graffiti art. Like this one I still have from a 2-decade-old sticker swap. By the time I started getting involved, the post office was making the sticky parts smaller and smaller, but it's meant that ever since then, I felt an urge to hoard any free sticky mailing label I received. So after the better part of 2 decades, I figured it was about time to do something with them. And screen printing seemed like the obvious answer. It has been a few years since I did any screen printing though, so I was a bit anxious about finally giving it a go.
It's kind of a funny project, you know? Like, I want it to go well enough that I feel like I haven't wasted my time doing it. But I don't want it to go so well that I feel like I should keep saving all these shipping labels. You know, I'm trying to get rid of them.
The first part of the job was to blank out any of the shipping information that hadn't already faded away. So I looked up what the most opaque colours in the System 3 range were, and found 2 that seemed like they would go together nicely, in Wedgwood and Velvet Purple. My plan was to blank out all the labels with a fade between the 2 colours I picked. So I masked out an appropriately sized rectangle and cast my mind back to 20 years ago before I dropped out of London College of Print, to remember what on earth I was meant to do. I probably wasn't being patient enough, but I didn't feel like I was getting a fade as quickly and organically as I wanted. So I mixed up a blend of the 2 shades and added a 3rd blob to the screen. This got things moving more in the right direction, so I started squeegeeing some of the labels. My relief that it was working was short-lived though, because the labels started curling up from the moisture in the paint. I had to think quickly, so I rushed off down to the workshop and found a few scrap battens of wood that they could curl around, which worked pretty well. I ended up squeegeeing almost 90 of these labels. And by the time I was at the bottom of my stack, the gum tape I was using for the mask was really beginning to dissolve. So it was definitely a good time to stop. Because of how they were all curling up, I was bracing myself for a need to iron them flat before I started printing a design onto them. So I was pleasantly surprised the next morning to find they had mostly found peace with themselves and had flattened out again. I wasn't really sure how well blanking them out was going to go. Opacity in paint is always a bit hit or miss. The blue paint here was way better than I thought, and the purple was much less so. But I think in all, it did a good enough job of removing any personal information from these labels. Now the labels were sufficiently blanked out, I was reminded once again how badly thought through this project was, as I didn't really have a plan for what I was going to print on them. I always had half an idea about turning them into stickers about how much my dog Frisbee loves life, but I wasn't convinced by my sketch, so I started with a simpler Frisbee-derived design I'd already drawn up. I got my mechanical orchestra out and cut the design out of some scrap sticky vinyl. Which I then stuck to the underside of the screen and got back to the squeegee. Printing the design went well, at least until it didn't, and the smaller pieces of my stencil started coming unstuck from the screen. After I lost 2 of her legs, I gave up on this stencil and had another go at my life sketch, which went a little better redrawing it in the computer. The same process followed, and once I got printing again, I ended up with the same thing happening, with the negative spaces coming unstuck after the same amount of prints. Instead of relying on my ancient, half-forgotten screen printing wisdom, I did a bit of Googling and found a thread of people recommending using so-called permanent vinyl for screen printing projects like this. Most of the vinyl I had used in all my other projects was rated in years of expected life, so I found some that was labelled as permanent in the local craft store and was ready to give it a go on the next design. After a leaf through the post-it books, I found this nice simple block of chocolate, thinking its bold simplicity would be a safe bet. The new vinyl created a new problem though, which was that it puckered on the edges and didn't want to stick down to the screen properly. So I ended up with it bleeding at the corners and frustratedly abandoned ship on the design even sooner than my first 2. Still looking for my next idea, I thought the robot in this note was a pretty good specimen. So I set about giving it a go. The disappointment of it not working was clearly getting to me though, as I realised after I had weeded most of it out that I had weeded the wrong inversion of the design. And then after I recut it, my next attempt got the same puckers that were sure to bleed out as well.
There's no way that's going to print well.
Unsure of what else to do, I carefully slipped a scalpel inside of the pucker and sliced it out, which seemed to work better than I was expecting. It's a shame that printing it didn't go the same way though. I think I overflooded the screen on my very first pass, which resulted in the whole thing bleeding. And my attempts at cleaning up the bleeding ended up peeling off the stencil too, so I gave up on this design as well. It's a shame because it was a nice little bit of artwork. But a couple of the errors are still interesting looking, at least, and definitely not something like you would get out of a computer. With a load of these labels still unprinted, and 4 failed stencils, I thought maybe something typographic would be simpler, so I returned to the simplest typographic message I could think of, which I designed for another screen printing project a few years back, and gave it a go. Finally, I ended up with a stencil that was playing along.
Yeah.
I was getting through the labels so effectively, I even decided to have a little play with the ink, daubing some of the other colours into the black, which was pretty fun. Despite my still obviously absolute amateur screen printing skills, I'm pretty happy with how they turned out. And some of the more inconsistent ones are more interesting as well. Just like how I didn't even have a plan for what to print on them though, I don't have a plan for where to stick them now they're done either. But they certainly have more of a belonging in my sticker collection now, so I'm sure I'll use a few there once I figure out what I'm doing with the rest of the stickers. Thanks for watching this.